Welcome to QuiltCam, everybody. This is Bonnie Hunter in the basement at Quiltville. It's a Saturday afternoon, mid-January. I can't believe that January is already half over. Can we give a huge hooray for January being half over? I'm absolutely thrilled to be with you today. I've just returned from Arizona, which is a great place to be in January. I missed Snowmageddon that North Carolina had, and I know there are places that get snow worse than we do, but being in Arizona and missing 8 inches of snow that stopped North Carolina in its tracks, it was perfect. And you see this? Look at this. It says, and I love doing this on QuiltCam because it actually shows forwards for you. Before you quilt see us. I went to 35th Avenue Sew and Vac in Phoenix. Huge store. It used to be a Fry's grocery store. They have over 12,000 bolts of fabric. And about every major machine manufacturer that you could think of is there. From Bernina to Pfaff to others, including Handy Quilter. So you can get your own mid-arm or long-arm machine and everything that goes with it there at 35th Avenue Sew and Vac. Because I love going to Arizona so much in January, for many reasons. 2 of my nieces have birthdays in January. My birthday's in January. My dad's birthday is early February. It's a great time to go and catch up with everybody. And I've got to fix something here on my screen, just disappeared. Okay, and so we've been making plans for 2019, and I will be teaching at 35th Avenue Sew and Vac, not January of 2019, because we don't want it to compete with the Sew Expo that happens in Phoenix, but the next weekend after that. So it's the 1st and 2nd of February 2019, and we will be booking the classroom to 50 students each day. So far we are looking at 2 days of classes. It's a Friday and a Saturday. And again, this is 2 years from now, so they won't have it up on their schedule yet, but put it on your calendar so that late 2018, when they open that up for registration, you'll be able to sign up for those workshops once we decide what they're going to be. And I will blog about it too. And I'm really, really excited to partner up with the folks at 35th Avenue Sew and Vac. So I'm here today in the sewing room working on, I'm actually looking at a failed, it says live and I'm frozen. Okay, I'm not frozen, just my laptop was frozen. I've got 2 different monitors going here. We stream via my Samsung tablet with an external camera so that you have things right side up, right side forward instead of mirror image. And that means that what's happening live on the tablet is about 5 seconds ahead of what's happening on my Facebook screen, and I have both of them going so that I can be sure that you are getting a Facebook feed. So what am I sewing on today? This one is a Japanese 1950s Class 15 machine. It's called Best Built, and it's this lovely robin's egg blue and cream, and I can show you pictures of this from the front if you don't mind getting a little bit wobbly on the camera. Let me just grab this. Pardon getting dizzy here. I'm watching cords as we go. So this is the Best Built. I've got my IKEA light right here. I have a bar light also, but it's too much in the way of the camera, so I use this one for now. It's got a really sleek design, and I absolutely love this very mid-century, even with this star in the center of the dial, control panel here. Reverse button for push. It's got knobs here that you can drop the feed dogs for free motion quilting or darning, whichever you do, but the only darning we do in my house is, oh, darn, and we throw it out and buy something new. I've got a string block in here, and there's also a couple things else that I would love your opinion on, so we'll get to that. But what I love about the Class 15 machine is the whole tensioner is back here on the side. So it's you know, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, but on the side. So as I'm sewing, I don't have the little take-up lever thing. I'm not really great with angling this camera. No take-up lever thing in the way of my field of vision. So I don't have to watch the thread go through everything. I don't have to watch the take-up lever go up and down. It's just very, very easy to see. Now, I've been cheating. Those of you who know I love vintage machines. Oops, I can move this. Show it to you in a second. I actually pulled, there it is. my Janome out because I've been working on some little paper piece blocks that start in the center and you sew for a half an inch and then you have to stop. So I brought this out. This sticks out so far in front of where the foot is back here that I have to scoot myself farther away and sit lower so that I can actually see what's going on with the foot. But with this machine, there is nothing here to obscure my field of vision, and I have a full view of the foot without something being in the way from it, of it. Being tall can be a problem when you're sitting at a machine. So I'm going to put the camera back now. Hang on to your dizzy hats. And there we go. Wait till this comes back up on the Facebook feed so that you can see where I'm at. Whoa, that does kind of make a little bit of a disaster, but here we are. Okay, so you saw a little bit of this quilt, and I can show you just part of it because it's not done yet. But this is Dawn's Early Light, and the blocks are together, and I finished this over New Year's, and now it's waiting for another border that's going to complete the little friendship stars in the corner. Do you see how there's this friendship star? It's going to have another one that looks, that's going to join with these two half square triangles, and then another floater border, and then I need something to finish it off. And that's where these blue string blocks are coming into play. And I thought that if I did a red stripe down the center of the string block and set them in zigzag fashion, that would give kind of a neat look for the border. So that's what the plan is. And I've just got started, but what I don't know, sometimes there needs to be a constant, but in this whole quilt there isn't, and I think throwing a constant in right now would look a little bit weird because all of these reds are scrappy. So I was thinking a different width of red and a different red print down the center of each block, but they might not join each other as they go. Would that bother you? As a quilter, if you were making this, knowing that all of these strings don't join each other, does it matter if the red strings down the center each block don't hit exactly? So if you want to leave me an email, quiltville@gmail.com is the only email you can reach me at. I'm sitting at the machine. I'm away from the keyboard. I can't read anything in Facebook right now. So if you email me, that's the best way to reach me. I'd also love to know what you are working on today. If you are working on our En Provence mystery, which revealed, if you are working on any other projects that are in the works, I'd love to see where you are in those. We've also had another finish. December was a very busy month, even though I was dealing with the cold from heck. This is garlic knots, and I'm just going to show you just a part of it. There's pictures on the Facebook in the photos from last night when I got it off the machine. There'll be a post about it tomorrow once I get binding on. But that's one of the other things I want to do today is sew binding. And I've chosen a purple that's a little bit lighter. And I love it when I can dig into the old stash. This one said 2003 on the selvage, and I miss that they don't put the date on the selvage anymore. But we're going to finish it off with this more red purple because it's got the blue purple up here. I didn't want those to be matchy-matchy. So that's what my plan is. So those are my questions for you. Yes or no on the red center. I can always just do them blue. They don't have to have any red at all. But if you think that the red would work, leave me a comment, leave me an email so that I know. Do different widths of strips and different red prints bother you? Should those be all the same? Should they be exact? If so, what I have to do is print a paper piecing foundation so that red stripe is directly in the center and the same width through all the borders. Okay, that makes it a bit boring, but we shall see. So I am here, and we're going to check in with who sent emails. Remember, email is the only way to get to me because I can't read what's on the screen, and I can't be flipping through stuff as far away as I am. And then we're going to sew a little bit. So Crystal says, oh, hi, Crystal, how are you? She says from sunny Maine. And I have to confess, I'm totally in love with the garlic knots. I'm using a constant for the center accent fabric and maybe for sashing and cornerstones as well. That'll tie it together nicely. She says the rest is totally scrappy, my first quilt. And she did send a picture which is just great. So here she is with her kitty cat, just working on her blocks in the sunshine in Maine. It may be cold, but at least the sun is out, so that's wonderful. One of the things that I've toyed with, I mean, garlic knots is such a funny name. It just kind of looked like those twisted garlic knots when I first started playing with this block. And I was going to change it to something else really cool, but it keeps coming back to me that it's got to be garlic knots because that's what it started with. So right now, it's not going to have a new name whatsoever. So glad you could join us, Crystal. Another thing, this has been kind of one of those cluster days. I had another machine set up in here, and I was sewing on it, and all of a sudden the motor was getting slower, and the motor was getting slower, and the motor was getting slower, and it was 15 minutes to QuiltCam. So I swapped out for this old trusty one because I knew it would function. And then I couldn't find a full bobbin of thread for it. So that's another thing. I may run out of thread. We'll have to wind a bobbin. This is the way that it goes. And my tablet that we're running QuiltCam on, well, it was at 6% battery when I remembered that it was still in my backpack from returning home from Arizona. So note to self, charge the tablet the night before QuiltCam, not 1 hour before QuiltCam. So I'm watching this, and we've got like 25% battery left when we started at about 30%. So when the battery runs out, we run out of QuiltCam. And we'll do it again when I get back from South Carolina towards the end of the month. So it's just been that kind of crazy thing. Also, Sadie got sick and I stepped in it in my socks, not seeing it. So, it's just been that kind of day. Let's see who is tuning in here. We have Diane Oak says, yay, QuiltCam. She says it's great to join you today while sewing. The cabin looks fantastic. Oh, yes, that's the thing. We made an offer. They countered. We recountered. They accepted. And now, hopefully, we'll have closing around mid-March if everything goes well. So I'll post a little bit about that when I have more information. Right now, we're playing the waiting game again. But it looks like Quiltville will be moving to Virginia, and I'm really excited about that. She says, I'm sending a picture of Charlotte's baskets. I took this class with you on Mackinac Island in May. I wanted to add some borders but couldn't decide. I ended up adding hourglass blocks made with the Essential Triangle tool. Great, love it. I'm also sending a picture of my blocks for Ocean Waves. I've got the 71 full blocks and 26 half blocks together. So here is her. Oh, I love what those hourglass blocks did. Super fun. So here's her Charlotte's basket. See if I can get it a little bit bigger there so that you can see. I just love string piecing. I can't get enough of it. I will go from piecing something regular and then find a way to add string piecing to it. It's just that much fun. And the baskets are framed. She made her baskets all red, but they're framed with rainbow strings. And then there's the hourglass border down at the bottom. So there's lots of things that you can do. I just love this, Diane. And she sent one other picture also. Oh, of her workspace. Oh, I love that. So she's got her Ocean Waves in a basket. And those blocks are building from half square triangles as she goes. So that's wonderful. You'll find the pattern for Charlotte's baskets in String Fling, but Ocean Waves is still a free pattern under the free patterns tab at the top of the blog. And there's directions for doing it with 2 sizes. Okay. All right, one more. This is from Charnette. Charnette, how are you? And what's the story on your shop? She says, working on taxes, so great time for a break. Hooray for QuiltCam. We're all going to send Charnette happy insurance wishes because she had a fire at her hair salon over the holidays. Lori Jasney says, love the idea of different red borders. Wouldn't bother her at all. So there's 3 cheers for that. She's starting her 365 challenge today. Have you guys heard of that one? It's 1 block every day. And I think if you Google 365 challenge, it'll come up for you. She says she'll also start Blue Ridge Beauty, but in greens. Greens and more greens. We're tired of brown in North Carolina. We want our spring green back. Also still working on the mystery and loving it. She says, congrats on the new cabin. She loves her Lake James getaway place. It's just beautiful down here in the Southeast, and we really, really love it. So glad to hear from you, Lori. Okay, so she says 3 cheers, yes, for the red down the center, and that would just add a little bit of pop to emphasize the zigzag. We'll consider that. But the one thing I want to do is talk a little bit about binding. These are my binding strips. There was a weird cut in this fabric, so I'm gonna have to, here's my scissors, trim these off. When I'm sewing binding, and maybe you do this too, but I do not cut my ends at a diagonal to start with. I overlap them like this, and then sew across the diagonal, and then I come back and snip off those corners. And those corners have been known to find their way into things like Wild and Goosey or Pineapple Crazy, things like that. But I like to just set it at a, I don't know, at a right angle from each other. And let me get my foot here. I just overlap, and I leave a little bit of margin of the underneath strip right here so that I can see. I know you can't see what my hands are doing. If I wanted to show that to you, we'd have to go into the realm of getting a real studio and multiple cameras, including one overhead and one on my forehead and whatever. So we just try to keep this real. But I do this continuously so that it's all one strip. I just make sure that they're right sides together, so I always put the bottom one right side up, and then the one that I'm adding goes right sides to it. If they're selvage, I kind of miss that a little bit. When I was sewing on the Janome, it drove me crazy sewing with that different presser foot. And I wasn't even doing anything I needed to keep a seam allowance on. I think it's just all what you're used to. But even though I will pull out a modern machine for some jobs, the vintage machines are just so much easier for me to use. Okay, so this is all in one long strip. And I'm just going to sew it so it's done. I'm not going to press it or anything until after QuiltCam. I just thought that somebody else might find this an easy way to stay organized while you're joining your strips together. So right side up and then wrong side against it. When I am planning a binding, I kind of figure out in my head how many strips it's going to take to go around the outside edge. And then because of where seams fall, and you're always going to end up with one seam in a corner somewhere, I add one extra strip just to be sure I have enough. So if I figure that it's going to take me 8 strips to go around, I cut 9 just to be sure. And then the leftover strip will end up in the scrap user system. This method is all shared under the binding hints and helps under the tips and techniques tab at the top of the blog. 2 more to go. Oh, that one's got a weird selvage. We'll cut that off. Okay. Now my strips are 2 inches wide. I went from 2.5 at first when I first started quilting because I kept 2.5 inch strips. So 2.5 inch binding was great, but I had to sew a wider seam or it would overlap further on the back than on the front. And then somebody said, well, try 2.25 inch strips. Well, that was okay unless I had a pieced border on the outside and I didn't want to chop off any triangle points while I was binding. And then I switched to 2 inch and I'll never go back. I love a 2 inch strip that gives me a 1/4 inch finished binding, and that binding is tight and full to the fold. So without chopping off any pieced border elements. Okay, now that is the binding. And at this point, you see all of these triangles are together. I'm going to snip this block off. It's really easy while I sit here to just give myself an approximate 1/4 inch seam and then snip off the dog ears as I go. I don't like dog ears in my binding. They make it hard to get that 1/4 inch seam that I want without a little excess in the way. So I trim across and then remove dog ears. And the chaining threads mean that all of the connections that I need are right next to each other, so I don't have to reel in a lot of fabric. So I just trim a 1/4 inch and trim dog ears and go to the next one. Trim a 1/4 inch. The dog ears usually end up on the floor. Or over the trash can. I'll do this over the trash can, but I can't right now with where the camera is. So, and just trim the dog ears as you go. And if you're doing something with small triangles, if you're working with crumbs or doing string blocks, these little corners make even great little pieces, but these are totally the wild and goosey or the pineapple crazy side. I have been saving crumbs for almost as long as I've been quilting, and there's bins of crumbs and bags of crumbs and pieces, parts, and small stuff like this. And what I need is for somebody to lock me on a desert island with plenty of foundation paper and phone books and just let me sew this stuff up for the rest of my life. I'd be totally happy. All I want to do is make really big quilts from really small pieces. Okay, we've got all of our dog ears are off. When I take this to the ironing board, before I press it in half, I like to eliminate as much bulk as possible, so I press all of these seams open. And you can see, because I overlapped these and sewed across the diagonal, that all of these seams will also be on the bias, so that when I fold this over, the seam does not end up on top of each other. In fact, I can fold it wrong side out so that you can see how those seams twist around. That means it's going to be easy to sew onto the quilt. It's also going to be easy when I do the hand stitching because a lot of that bulk won't end up on top of itself that way. So I'll fold this in half and press it really well because that helps the binding not twist as I'm sewing it on. And I'll sew that on probably tonight using a walking foot. I've got my Singer 301 set up for that. So we got that binding done. At least it's pieced. And we're making progress. Let's check back in. How are we doing on our battery? Oh my goodness, 19%. This is when Bonnie needs to put a note. Please charge tablet before we do QuiltCam. I'm going to check in with you and see what's going on. So we have Val B who says, greetings. I'm watching from Cyprus. So good evening, Cyprus. How are you? Thanks for everything. And that's Valerie. And then this one's from Ria who says, so great to see you live again to answer your questions. I would love to see the red strips float around that border. And your garlic knots are gorgeous. I forgot the questions about it. I don't think there was questions about garlic knots other than, is that an appropriate name for a quilt or does it make you think of green and stinky things? I'm working at the last Borders of Love Entwined, an applique by Esther Aliou. I love to applique as well, and she's including a picture. And she's finished her En Provence. That's another thing. Tonight is the last, at midnight tonight, North Carolina time, the link up for sharing your En Provence progress ends. So if you have, wherever you are, whether you're on part 1 or part 5 or part 6 or 7, share your progress if you have a blog, a Google Plus account, an Instagram, a Flickr, or a Tumblr, or did I say Instagram already? Or a Pinterest. Those are the things that you need to be able to share photos in the link up that is on Monday's post for our Mystery Monday link up. We will do the next En Provence link up a month away. I think it's like February 9th or something like that, to give people who are just starting a chance to get as far as they can. And then that will be our last one until next time, closer to the time where we do our new Leader Ender Challenge that'll happen in July. We'll also do a link up for how your Hourglass Leader and Ender Challenge is coming. And you'll be a pro since you've done all these for En Provence, right? I've set mine aside over here. The ones that I'm working on now is my aqua round. So I've got all of these aqua, turquoise, and neutral hourglass units and half units that have been pieced as leaders and enders in between other things. So those are the two things that we do every year. We have the mystery in the winter through the holidays. And then in July, we start our next leader and ender challenge. And that's about all I can manage as far as activities right now. Okay, another one. She had her picture, so here we go. This is, oh my goodness, as the picture comes in. Remember, I'm in Wi-Fi in my basement, and sometimes it's kind of slow. So she's got this applique border that she's working on. That is just beautiful. And her next picture, oh, that's lovely. It's coming in. Here is her en Provence finish. That is absolutely beautiful. Some have used a more constant fabric. Some people didn't do the 4 patches for the borders. Some people are taking it in their whole different direction. And I love it when you use my designs as a springboard for your own vision. So please feel free to change the colors, turn the units around, add extra borders, whatever you want. I'm just happy that we were able to do this together. Okay, we got lots of stuff coming in here. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom for stuff that came from the beginning. Oh my goodness, we're just all of these emails. So we have here Karen. She says, I'm so excited to be able to sew with you for about 30 minutes. I'm at the Spring Hill Suites in Fishers, Indiana. I will be watching on my phone. The kids are napping after the swimming preliminaries, and we have to be back at the pool at 3 for warm-ups and for finals. So there's a big swim meet going on for her kids. I have my grandma's machine, my IKEA light, the snips I bought from you, my seam guide, and my pieces kitted to redo Talkin' Turkey. It is that quilt where I learned the valuable lesson of precise cutting and the proper 1/4 inch seam. Many of these recycled fabrics are shirts. So she's got her hotel set up right here. I love it. That is so great. And you have to, it's a good thing she has the IKEA light because hotel lights are notoriously dim, aren't they? So she's mood sewing there, but she's got her IKEA light next to her grandma's machine. That is fabulous. I love it. Okay, one more, and then I want to sew. This one is from Paula DiMattei, who says, I spent this morning working on my en Provence blocks, and now I'm settling in with a bit of English paper piecing while joining in on QuiltCam, and she's sharing a picture of her colors on her design wall. She's got yellow, green, blue, orange, and neutral going on in there. Can I get it right in the middle of the camera? That looks fabulous. I love it. I just love those Tri-Rex units and any more quilts that we can do with those. Oh, I've got a gazillion ideas. They just add so much motion and interest to a quilt. So they're really fun. So these little guys, can I just spend my life piecing really big quilts from really small pieces? I'd be happy. We're going to set them over here. And then we're back to this. So she says yes on the red strip. And we're going to turn that on vibrate. Okay, and I am just getting ready to finish this one. When you're string piecing, you want to be sure, I have my bin of blue strings down at my feet. I don't want any seams closer than this corner. So if my piece ended up here, I'd be sure that I'd scoot the next seam down so that it's away from that corner. And I'm just going to cut. Normally I would have my small crumb box out too so that I could pick blue stuff to be corners, but I didn't know how much time we'd have today. And my stitch length is a little bit small. For these I forgot to put the stitch length up when I was back sewing the binding. And my iron is on. But I think the red down the center, as that goes topsy-turvy this way, I'll probably piece maybe 6 blocks this way and sew them together and see if I like it or not, and we'll decide. I could always just go plain blue, but I'm digging here for something. And when I say blue string bucket, I mean blue string bucket. There's just a lot of stuff. Oh, this might make just a good corner. Anything that I don't want to cut into individual strips or squares ends up in the string bucket because I can use this stuff for corners as well. So I'm going to cut this in half. I can even cut it in quarters and have 4. Sometimes you're just tired of a fabric, and to think of it sitting in your drawers as 2.5-inch strips is like, oh no, please just make it go away. So that'll work there. Perfect. And I like to use the 2 blocks at once. That's the one thing that I did like about sewing on the Janome is that lovely thread cutter. I didn't have to do 2 blocks at once, but it's such a habit that I found myself doing it anyway. I think that, you know, from burgundy to red in that quilt top, there's all kinds of reds. Let's pull it back up here. I can't show the whole thing, but this gives you a good idea. There's so many different reds, from an orangey red to a burgundy red to whatever, that I think varying the reds in the border is going to make it an interesting kind of zigzag too. Now I cut these at 5.5 inches because that was how wide my paper is. I'm actually using some old order forms that went with my doll pattern business. So I can trim these down to whatever size the math works out to be once I finish the completer borders and then divide stuff down. So I may be trimming these to either 4.5 or 5 or what 4 or whatever will make the math work. So, but right now they're 5.5. And we can add this corner here too. Oh, yay. Love this machine. No big purple knob in front of my face the way that there is on that Janome. Okay, so here we are. And my piecing has gone a little bit off kilter. I can tell by looking at the back side that my red strip didn't stay centered. So that might be something else that I need to consider. Maybe I need to put a little bit of glue stick down to make sure that that red strip stays centered no matter what size it is. So here's another one, and we'll put a red down. And the red just needs to be long enough to go across the center. So here's this one. Things tend to creep while you sew. And we'll pull another blue. Some of this blue is quite ancient. There's one. And this is one that's really wide. So what I tend to do with stuff that's really wide, because I'm not going to the rotary cutter, I just fold it up and whack it in half with scissors. My hope is that somebody will do this quilt for a Quilts of Valor, because that was my thought when the block first appeared in 100 Blocks by 100 Designers last May. Okay. So here's this one, and it'll be trimmed up to whatever size I need it to be. They're purposely oversized because I didn't have time to do the math and figure out what I want. But since they're strings, I don't mind a little bit of loss if it's too big. All right, I'm watching our thing here, and it says we are at 6%. So let's answer some more. I know we've only been doing QuiltCam for a half hour. There goes the low battery alert. But I think we have about 5 more minutes or so. And then we will do this again when I get back from South Carolina. I'm headed down to Hilton Head in the Bluffton area, and also over to Beaufort. So this one is from Mike and Becky. My vote is for using the same width of red strip on your border blocks, but vary the print, which means that I could just use like the 1.5 inch strips and not have to cut any, and just use 1.5 inch reds, and then piece either side of those. That might work. So we'll see. Thank you for that. And she says, trying to complete step 7 of En Provence, my first mystery quilt. And then Chris B says, string blocks. I've made several string quilts that had a red down the center. I used all scrappy reds, but I cut them all the same width. Okay, so there's 2 people for the same width. I think it helped tie it together. I did the same thing with a string quilt that had pink in that same location. She says, I just heard you say thought you need a foundation pattern. Not really. Just made them a bit oversized, and then made sure I trimmed them to keep the red strip in the middle. Okay, so that works great. Thank you. And then Sharon says, I see En Provence weekend. I'm Sharon, aka Daffy Cat. I'm watching QuiltCam while working on En Provence during this ice stormy weekend in Oklahoma. So sorry for those in Oklahoma. I have 10 blocks completed, and I can't wait to start putting it all together. Thank you for this mystery. It's my first, and I love doing it. So she's got a picture here as well. If I can get this, Come on, download. Oh, well, how beautiful. She's got it up on her design wall by her cutting table right there. So she's working on her en Provence. Beautiful job. Alrighty, so other things upcoming. Yesterday I wrote about our upcoming trip to China and gave little excerpts and videos of where we will be visiting during our itinerary in China. This happens in October of 2017. And I know several of the people who are coming with me already. There's room for you. I hope you'll join us. Following China, I go directly over to Thailand with another group. So if you visited China but never Thailand before, you might want to check out today's post on all of the highlights we'll be hitting while we are in Thailand. So this goes from October into November with the Thailand trip. Back to back, I figure if I'm already down in China, there's no way I'm going to fly back home and then turn around and go back to Thailand. So we're just going to do them back to back and with two separate groups. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, you could join me for both. So that's all on the blog at quiltville.blogspot.com. And what else do we have coming up? Exciting things happening with new items on the Quiltville in the Quiltville store. If you've been waiting for those little rulers, the ones that the Creative Grids 2.5 by 6.5, they're in stock and they are added already. I added them today, so those are available for you. I will be adding several new digital patterns to the online store as well. If you are doing en Provence, please make sure you have all of your parts printed that will be retired on February 1st, and that's coming up in about 2 weeks. So once that happens, once February 1st happens, en Provence will be a digital download available in the Quiltville store. Only I will be unable to supply you with any missing parts. So it's always a good idea, even though if you save things digitally, print them out, put them in page protectors, put it in a binder on your shelf where things can't get lost. If it's on your iPad and you break your iPad, you're kind of toast. If it's on your laptop and you lose it, if it's on your big desktop and you can't remember where you filed it on your computer, you'll be out of luck. So go ahead and print that while you can. Paper and ink are cheap. Other than that, you'll be forced to buy the pattern, but we do offer sales from time to time, so be watching those. I am down to, oh my goodness, 1% battery. It's time to say goodbye, everybody. If you are still sewing, if you're just getting going, if you've just joined us, don't stop. We hope to join with you again when I get back from the South Carolina trip.